Next on the news, they haven't been able to cook in their own kitchens for months because of a serious problem.
Right now, a home-cooked Thanksgiving meal seems impossible for residents in the Bland houses. They've had no gas for close to 6 months, left only with these hot plates to cook with. Now they're demanding answers from NYCHA and wondering how much longer they'll have to suffer. I'm Jessica Easthope. That story's ahead.
The Bishop of Brooklyn, Robert Brennan, joins in the 100th anniversary celebration at St. Ephrem's in Dyker Heights. And
it's a covenant, and we came to understand that God is in our marriage with us, and we can call on God to help us.
How a couple originally from the Diocese of Brooklyn managed to save their marriage of 27 years. Plus, call it lost and found, a woman crediting God and her faith in humanity for the discovery of her lost wedding ring. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now.
We don't have money to go to the restaurant. We don't have money to buy certain things.
They haven't had a decent meal in months. Cooking gas cut off to their apartment. And the response from NYCHA looking like there's no end in sight. It was turned off in May for repairs, and it hasn't been back on since. And without gas, dozens of families at the Bland houses can't cook on their own stoves. Currents News' Jessica Easthope spoke with 2 residents who say this is just one of the many issues they face in their NYCHA nightmare. She has the story from Flushing, Queens.
This is what they want to cook a turkey in. All right.
Vanessa Sumter and her husband, James Proctor, look forward to hosting their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren for Thanksgiving every year. When their gas was shut off on May 3rd, they never thought,
there you go,
this year it wouldn't be possible.
So-called hot plates that they give, which don't last.
Vanessa and James haven't been able to cook anything in their oven or on their stove.
Already burnt out.
For the last 6 months.
I'm trying to survive, and cooking on these hot plates is just getting to me. I'm beginning to feel like when I do start back cooking, I won't know how. We got a hole here.
A leak in the main gas line is what prompted NYCHA to shut off the gas in the Bland houses in downtown Flushing. Since then, 80 families have been relying on hot plates to cook.
You see that? It's rocking, so I have to level it out.
Vanessa and James both need to stick to a strict diet. James is a diabetic.
All this food here, and I can't even use it.
Since May, they've spent more than $1,000 on outside food. With inflation and the recent rise in food prices,
I've really been crying.
It's money burned.
It's breaking us. You know, it's taking us to the poorhouse.
Vanessa and James have lived in the same apartment for 22 years, and they say having no gas is only the latest in a long line of issues.
And this is what we have to do in the bathroom. And that was freshly painted. The water boat's coming out there. This, which is probably mold.
NYCHA told them they're ineligible for food stamps or any financial assistance because they didn't have a welfare case open before the gas was shut off.
We don't have money to go to the restaurant, so once again, we're being let down.
Vanessa says it's been one disappointment after another, and now her holiday season feels ruined before it's even begun.
You ain't making no Thanksgiving dinner on 2 hot plates on those stoves. It's overwhelming because I really had my plans for Thanksgiving.
Currents News reached out to NYCHA about when the gas would be restored. A spokesperson didn't offer a timeline, but said the outage is still in the permitting and construction stage.
No gas. Once again, thank you, housing.
In Flushing, Jessica Easthope. Currents News.
Are you also a NYCHA resident experiencing a serious problem in your building? You can email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number. That's 718-517-3122. City and state leaders are scrambling after a recent string of subway crimes have left many terrified to take mass transit. On Sunday, a 14-year-old girl was stabbed on a train in Manhattan after she got into a fight with 2 other teenage girls. Later that day, an attacker punched a 62-year-old man in the back of the head, knocking the victim onto the tracks in a Mott Haven subway station. And that wasn't the only subway shove. On Friday, a 32-year-old waiter suffered a broken collarbone in an unprovoked unprovoked attack in Brooklyn. According to the victim's mother, the attack left her son traumatized to the point of being suicidal. These are just some of the latest incidents of crime in the city's subway system. And it's only getting worse. According to the NYPD, as of October 17th, reported transit crimes increased 41% compared to the same time last year, jumping from nearly 1,300 in 2021 to just over 1,800 in 2022. Because of that sharp rise, Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul have unveiled a new plan to stop subway crime. It involves more police being deployed underground. Gloria Pazmino has the details.
Both the governor and the mayor have been under pressure in the last several weeks to deal with the problem of crime in the transit system. They have both acknowledged that the incidence of violence in the system has increased, and they're putting together a plan to do something about it. Here's what they're doing. They are increasing the number of police officers that are patrolling the system. They are also installing cameras, and they are adding psychiatric beds. They are adding the number of resources that are available for people in need of mental health care. Now, this idea that increasing the number of police and MTA officers on trains will help people feel safer is something both the governor and the mayor have faced questions on, and we pressed them on that because some of these violent incidents have taken place at train stations where police officers were present. This is what they have to say.
We have to look at the totality of public safety, and what we have found in our analysis is that when that police officer makes that quick apprehension, he's preventing the repeated crimes. There's a small number of people who are repeated committing these crimes.
The MTA is going to be ensuring that there are security guards at the turnstiles as well, so they can monitor situations, that if someone sees something, hears something, they have one more person they can speak to.
That was Gloria Pazmino reporting. Part of the plan includes an effort to modernize the criminal justice system. The mayor wants to expedite the length of time it takes for a suspect to be arraigned to keep more criminals off the streets. Now to an uplifting ending to a crime committed in our nation's capital. A statue of Our Lady of Fatima that was damaged beyond repair has been replaced. In December of last year, surveillance cameras at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception caught a masked man knocking off Mary's hands and smashing her face in. Now, 10 months later, an exact replica of that image stands proudly in the Rosary Walk and Garden outside the shrine. In honor of the occasion, around 50 people prayed the rosary in front of the statue. Then it was blessed by Washington Cardinal Wilton Gregory. And while they were unable to stay for the blessing, a group of Brooklyn's faithful were able to admire the beautiful interior of the basilica during their annual pilgrimage to the National Shrine on Saturday. It was the first time a Brooklyn and Queens pilgrimage was made since the pandemic. Bishop Robert Brennan led the faithful on their journey and celebrated Mass in the basilica. Brennan also led the group of more than 3,000 in the Rosary, offering the sacrament of penance and celebrating Mass in the nation's largest Roman Catholic Church. But Bishop Brennan didn't spend his entire weekend in D.C. Sunday, he joined St. Ephrem's Parish in Dyker Heights for a special Mass of Thanksgiving as they celebrated 100 years of service. The church had kicked off their anniversary year last October after it was delayed due to the pandemic. And despite the setback, Bishop Brennan recognized the remarkable milestone, and he noted how the parish has lived up to the name of their patron saint throughout the past century.
And so here the family of the Catholic Church gathers at St. Ephrem's Parish, like St. Ephrem himself, to contemplate the joy of the gospel and the splendor of truth, to encounter Jesus once again, and then to take his message of hope, his message of mercy, his message of human dignity, his message of the love of God out into the world, out into Bay Ridge and Dyker Heights and downtown Brooklyn and wherever we find ourselves.
St. Ephrem Parish was founded in 1921 and has since educated tens of thousands of students and participated in countless charitable events and food donations. In another confusing turn for the migrant crisis, Border Patrol is sending some immigrants to offices nationwide, including New York, with no warning. The migrants thought they were being sent to shelters, but instead, Border Patrol sent them to a variety of places, including the administration offices of Catholic Charities in New York, an El Paso church, and even someone's private home, all without anyone knowing. Customs and Border Protection has not yet responded to the allegations. A new national report card is showing a historic decline in math and reading scores for children in the U.S. And it's being called the clearest example yet of the devastating impact from the pandemic. Chris Wynn has the latest from Washington, D.C.
There's growing concern about the pandemic's impact on America's children as parents and educators pore over the latest results from the nation's report card.
We are on the cusp of losing a generation of our children.
The findings are based on the National Assessment of Educational Progress Reading and Math Exams, which are conducted by the National Center for Education Statistics, a branch of the U.S. Department of Education. The report looks specifically at 4th and 8th grade students and was the first since 2019.
So much of this is socioeconomic. Some districts fared much better than others, and unfortunately, due to zip code, is where you saw kids kind of get lost in the fray.
Afternoon, welcome.
More than 50 states and jurisdictions took part in the assessment, showing the largest decline in math scores since the initial trial in 1990, according to the center's commissioner. In fact, no state or large urban district showed improvements in math, with some decline also showing up in reading scores.
If this is not a wake-up call for us to double down our efforts and improve education, even before it was before the pandemic, then I don't know what will.
Education Secretary Miguel Cardona believes the results are partly a symptom of decades of underinvestment, but says part of the solution is to provide better compensation for teachers.
Let's start honoring the profession, making sure we're paying our professionals a competitive salary, and we're not going to deal with shortages.
Chris Wynn, Currents News.
Sadly, New York's report card isn't looking much better. According to the new data, only about 28% of 4th graders and 28% of 8th graders across the state are proficient in math. And reading is only slightly better, with just 30% of 4th graders and 32% of 8th graders reaching the level of proficiency. There's a lot more news headed your way. They were headed for divorce, but changed their minds. How the church helped to save their marriage. Plus, prayers came from every corner of the world. How many people and countries took part in the Rosary for Peace. And a health warning for parents, the common children's virus that's overwhelming hospitals. When we come back.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
It's a startling statistic, and yet many Americans aren't surprised by it. 44% of marriages end in divorce, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And while the divorce rate among Catholics is lower, the Pew Research Center says 19% of those marriages don't make it. One couple, originally from our diocese, could have been one of those statistics, but they turned to the church for help. They took part in a Catholic program called Retrouvailles, which is French for rediscovery. And now they help others. We're joined now by Angel and John Cohen. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I want to know first, what happened in your marriage? You were high school sweethearts, you got married pretty young, and after 27 years, were headed toward divorce. Why is that?
We were experiencing a severe communication problems. And it got to a point where we really were leading what we call the married single life. We were each doing our own thing and just acting on our own and independently. And it reached the point where I had gone to an attorney and I was going to sue for divorce. And then I had been at church one day and at Mass, and they had a guest couple speaking at the church, and they had mentioned this Retrouvailles program, which I asked Angel. I said, I think this would be something that would be very helpful to us. And I asked her if she wanted to participate in the program, and she was not interested at that time.
But apparently you convinced her, and it's great that you heard that in church, because as we were speaking before, I'd never heard of this. So tell us, how did the Retro-Vi retreat help your marriage?
The program is based on a weekend, post sessions, and then the monthly support. So when we were on that weekend, it was really miraculous. We understood and what was really wrong with our relationship, or what we had thought we were doing and what we needed to correct. And we used the tools and the techniques that they taught us on that weekend, and then followed up with a post. It's work, but it was well worth it, because we stayed together, and now we're involved, pretty involved in the program.
Now, you've said that your relationship now is stronger than ever. So what is the key?
The key is really using the tools of Retro-Vi, and the tools of Retro-Vi basically give you a better ability to listen to each other and communicate with each other. And a lot of it starts with understanding each other's feelings. If I don't understand how something I do makes Angel feel, I can't really respond to that properly, and I can't recognize, my own behavior and how it's affecting her. So really getting to that point is the root of making this work. And then throughout the program and the tools they give you, we learn some guidelines on how to solve conflict, which is one of the biggest issues that we have to do. And we also recognize how important romance is in the relationship, how important like family of origin is, and how that affects how we approach different things.
And also how important God is. When we did our marriage vows, it's a covenant, and we came to understand that God is in our marriage with us, and we can call on God to help us when we have problems. And so we pray for God's help and guidance, and all of this is what's helped us, I think, remain in a good relationship, taking us this far. Last week we celebrated our 38th wedding anniversary.
Aw, congratulations. Well, we're so happy to hear that this worked for you guys and that you're now helping other couples. Angel and John Cohen from Retro-Vi, thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
If you need help in your marriage, the Diocese of Brooklyn has resources for you. Contact the Secretariat for Evangelization and Catechesis at 718-281-9544. And if you'd like to learn more about the Retro-Vi retreats, just visit helpourmarriage.org. Registration is now open for an event guaranteed to bring together hundreds of thousands of young Catholics. World Youth Day 2023 in Lisbon. Pope Francis announced the opening on Sunday, even asking 2 Portuguese youth to help him register as a pilgrim.
Lo farò adesso per andare io. Ecco, mi sono iscritto.
Every 3 years, the Pope gathers with the young people in a different country for World Youth Day. It's a chance for them to personally experience the universality of the Church, as well as deepen their faith and grow closer to Christ with prayer and the sacraments. The Diocese of Brooklyn normally sends hundreds of pilgrims to World Youth Day. This year, they are planning to send one of their largest delegations ever, around 350 pilgrims. For more information on World Youth Day and to find out how you can go, just go to lisboa2023.org/EN. World Youth Day in Lisbon will take place from August 1st through August 6th of 2023. The numbers are now in for an annual prayer initiative encouraging the faithful the world over to pray the Rosary for peace.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Overall, more than 840,000 people from 140 different countries took part in the campaign by Aid to the Church in Need. Poland saw the largest turnout with nearly 250,000 Catholics registering, and closely following behind was Slovakia and the Philippines. But according to the Pontifical Foundation, those numbers are probably even higher than reported, as they only reflect those who officially registered. Saying it is committed to respectful dialogue, the Vatican has renewed its deal with China's communist government on the appointment of bishops. The provisional agreement, forged in 2018 and renewed in 2020, has been extended for another 2 years. The text of the deal has never been made public, but Vatican officials say it outlines procedures for ensuring bishops are elected by the Catholic community in China and approved by the Pope before their ordinations and installations. In the past 4 years, only 6 bishops have been named and installed under the terms of the agreement. It's a common respiratory virus known as RSV, and now it's spreading quickly among children, and hospitals are becoming overwhelmed. The CDC says earlier this month there were more than 7,300 cases in 1 week alone. Ivan Rodriguez has the details on this and other growing health concerns impacting kids.
About a week and a half ago, Stephen Balke noticed changes in his 7-week-old son's health.
When he would cough, it was almost as if he was struggling to breathe and struggling to cough all at the same time.
Balke rushed his son to the hospital. He's been in the ICU for 1 week, slowly recovering.
It's terrible to have any family or any child have to go through this.
Melanie Kitagawa is the medical director of the pediatric ICU at Texas Children's Hospital, where she says more than 40 children are hospitalized with RSV. At least 10 are in the ICU.
The mucus that is produced from the virus is what really challenges these kids.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says there were more than 7,000 cases of RSV in just 1 week this month. That's the highest 1 week total in the past 2 years. With the CDC also reporting an early increase in seasonal flu activity in most of the U.S., doctors are stressing the importance for families to get their flu shot to help prevent more aggressive illness.
We worry, what does it look like if flu comes into this too? Because that's our next sort of common virus that comes through this.
Doctors say parents should be on the lookout for symptoms like runny nose, coughing, and fever.
If you feel as if something is wrong with your child, you know your child better than anyone does. Get your child help immediately.
Ivan Rodriguez, Currents News.
Still to come on Currents News, she could have died in a terrible car crash, but this teen says that wasn't God's plan. Plus, it's all fun and games until someone loses something valuable. What was lost and found at the Texas State Fair? Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A Memphis teen on the road to recovery after surviving a horrific car crash says God has plans for her. Malia Allen is home from the hospital 3 months after being ejected from a car and suffering burns over 75% of her body. She says she had to relearn to walk and will continue physical therapy and dialysis in order to fully recover. Malia says the overwhelming support from family, friends, and complete strangers has helped immensely.
Thank you so much. Like, God has something planned for you just like he has something planned for me. And for you to support a complete stranger, it takes a lot.
The 17-year-old says even as she continues her recovery, she plans to graduate from high school and go to college. And finally tonight, it was an emotional roller coaster for an Oklahoma woman after something valuable was lost and then found at the Texas State Fair. Marcy Moore was on her way home to Oklahoma with her husband when she realized her wedding ring was missing. She remembered she took it off at the fair to put on hand sanitizer and never put it back on. Fortunately, the cherished ring was discovered and turned in to Lost and Found.
These people were wonderful people, but none of this happens without God.
Turns out a jeweler found the ring, recognized its value, and gave it to police officers. Lucky for her. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.